of all the free this is a question after my own heart. Of all the free composting ingredients, leaves, wood chips, cardboard, hay, etc., does any one of them deliver more routine for the amount used? By routine, I mean volume of compost created per volume of raw material composted. That's a good question.
So he wants to have a compost that actually takes more back to the garden from what he's put in.
Per pound, exactly.
Yeah, pounds. And with composting, you have to have the balance between carbon and nitrogen. You need the nitrogen in there to really, if you like, heat things up, get the bacteria going, because they need nitrogen for their bodies. They also need the labile carbon, the carbon that they can get at and use. So if you want to retain a bunch of carbon in your compost, you would use something like wood chips. Because that's going to be slower to break down, you've got less surface area. You've got less carbon there that the bugs can get at. And you'll end up with something that looks like, you'll still see the wood chips there.
Right.
They'll be starting to break down, but they won't be breaking down as quickly, but that will give you more return. The other thing with wood chips is it helps to keep that compost pile open and aerobic.
Right. Yeah, because they have the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes them a while.
A lot of compost piles, you get stuff that's ground up too fine, and it just collapses down on itself, and it goes anaerobic in the bottom, and doesn't really compost.
Yeah, I found if you put like a foot of hay, sometimes if I can get hay, I like to put it over my potatoes instead of doing the hilling up and stuff like that. I'll just put about a foot of hay, and the potatoes find their way up through it. But over the course of the season, the hay just pretty much disappears by October.
Yeah,
and all of that hay leaves like, I don't know, like less than a centimeter. I mean, it does create black soil. It breaks all that hay breaks down really fast. So I think hay has a lot to add to soil, but for the amount of hay you put on, there's not a lot of soil.
You don't get a lot left.
Yeah.
But if you're putting hay on, especially if it's a legume hay, it's got a carbon to nitrogen ratio to start out with that's between 10 to 1 and 20 to 1.
Right.
That's going to break down pretty quickly.
Yes.
If you put straw on that's got a C to N ratio of 80 to 1, you'll have a lot more left at the end of the season, but you won't get the benefit of the nitrogen coming out of it to feed the potatoes.
Right. Yeah. It's always these sorts of, I've tried seaweed too, and that, seaweed is the weight of it. It's almost all water.
Yeah.
It seems like this thick, dense stuff, but it's actually just like you're picking up a big bucket of water with just enough stuff to hold the water together. It gets really hot and it breaks down and it makes the soil very dark. And I think it's got a lot of good stuff in it, but a bucket of hay might make the most seaweed I could carry, that might make a couple of cups of soil when it's all done breaking down.
Yeah.
But the weight of it, 100 pounds of seaweed, right? It turns into, so that's good. Matthew Smith asks, are coffee grounds better served as a component of compost or directly added to the garden? I guess he's saying you just sort of sprinkle it on like pixie dust. But I've often wondered that myself.
Some of what you're trying to do with composting is break down the physical structure of the stuff, and that's not an issue with coffee grounds.
Right.
It's already it's finely ground. I wouldn't be going to the local Tim Hortons and trying to get a year's supply of coffee grounds from Tim's to put in my 10 by 10 garden bed.
Right.
If it's just that you take the coffee out of your coffee maker each morning and dump that in the garden, it's certainly, I don't think, going to cause any problems, and it saves a step. You're not going to have any weeds to deal with. I think it goes to composting, or do you let stuff rot in place? If you let stuff rot in place, you've got the chance that the biology is going to incorporate the mineral matter in the soil with the organic matter and actually build soil structure.
Right.
With compost, you're doing all that in a separate pile, and what you're adding is fairly stable, so it may stick around, but you've missed that opportunity to really build soil structure with it.
Right.
So it's composting has a place, but I think it's sometimes overstated what composting will do, or people don't really understand why we're doing it.
Actually, your answer to this actually made me think of something that I've noticed over the last. I never read this anywhere. It's just something. So I grow a lot of kale every year, right? And at some point, I gather all my mulch materials in the fall because people kindly put them in bags and take them to the end of the street for me, right? Nice, very nice of them. So I throw everything out on the garden. I just sort of redistribute it over the course of the season, but usually around July-ish, I find in some of my beds the compost, the mulch getting a bit thin because I don't want to water my garden. I want to replenish it. So I'll use what I've got, which I mow my lawn, and I'll take the grass clippings and throw them. Oh, maybe only just an inch or so, because grass clippings are so dense. You don't need to go really high with them, and they do a really good job. So I'll throw grass clippings over the beds, some beds anyway. And I found that when I put the grass clippings over the kale beds, after about a week, the kale just takes off. Like could the nitrogen from that grass be getting to the kale that quickly? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yes. Because
it is like a shot, and it's like a B12 shot. Like they just go.
Yeah, because those grass clippings, they have a fair bit of organic nitrogen, but there's nitrate nitrogen in the clippings themselves. And
that's that smell, that horrible like pea smell when you you sort of have a pile of it and you lift it up. It is a really intense smell. So that is ammonia nitrate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Okay, well, there you go, people. I'm going to have to make a real, I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, but it's just like, hey, I think this is something, but I'm going to have to do a dedicated video to that this year, right? I put it on, show the state of the kale, and then do a video a few weeks later. Look at this kale, right? And what a cheap, cheap fertilizer.